the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast is a production of Divorced Girl Smiling, where every show is 30 minutes aimed to empower you, help you feel validated and understood, and connect you with some of the best divorce professionals in the industry. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling as you join us right now for the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Before we get started, I want to tell you about two divorce attorneys who I think are wonderful and who I trust immensely. They're in different states. The first one I'm going to mention is Jessica Zajura. Jessica is the founder of her law firm, Zajura Family Law, and Jessica has been practicing for a long time. She's based in Maryland, and she believes that while conflict may be inevitable, resolution does not always have to be a battle. Jessica's philosophy centers on empowering clients with clear options, honest and straightforward guidance, and unwavering support, whether that means negotiating a settlement, mediating a parenting plan, or litigating a contested case. I really trust Jessica, and if you want to learn more about her, go to zajurafamilylaw.com. The other attorney I want to tell you about is Odalo Ohiku, who is the founder of Ohiku Law Office in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And the first line of his bio on his website reads, "Care for the whole person." And when I talk to Odalo, I feel that way. You can quickly see the sincerity and the authenticity of this lawyer. Odalo is also a mediator and an arbitrator, and he's been practicing divorce law since 2003. He's a great listener. He emits positivity and trustworthiness, and these are traits that I believe are the utmost importance to those facing divorce who are looking for a great divorce attorney. If you want to learn more about Odalo, you can find him at ohiku.com, and you can find both Odalo and Jessica in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. I'm a dog lover. My guest is a dog lover. And we're going to dedicate this whole podcast to dogs and other pets, cats too, and divorce. We're going to answer all the questions that you might have if you're thinking about divorce or going through one and you have a pet or more. My guest is Karis Nafty. Karis is a pet mediator and dog behavior consultant, a speaker, and the author of her book, Who Keeps the Dog. Who Keeps the Dog is also the name of her business. And Karis helps people figure out what to do in situations where there's a pet involved with divorce. She works with clients. She also works with divorce professionals. She's a real expert on this. Hello, Karis.
Hello, Jackie. So nice to be here.
Really nice to have you. And I'm looking forward to this conversation because I'm a dog lover and I can't imagine going through a divorce and thinking that you might lose your dog. And you're dealing with that every day in your business. What's that like?
Jackie, it's hard. I always, I feel bad anytime someone needs my help. It's like I always say to my clients, and I mean this so genuinely, I'm sorry that you're in a position where you have to be faced with the reality of you might end up not having custody of your dog, or something might have to happen. So it's hard work, but I'm so privileged to do it because I know I help people at a point in their life that's so vulnerable and they're so in need of good guidance. So for them and their pets, I really love what I do. I really love providing the sensible guidance that helps people make the best decision about their animals.
And I want to tell my listeners that Karis has been a dog behavior consultant for like 25 years or something like that. So you really know the dogs. The mediation happened a few years ago. How many years ago?
About 5 years ago.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for 5 years, she decided, Karis, that she wanted to expand her business to include, mediation, and then that kind of became your whole business because there was such a need for it. Okay, so when people are getting divorced at the beginning, you know how we talk so much in podcasts about how are the kids going to react? How do you tell your kids? Well, you can't really tell your dogs, but what is the behavior that you have seen? What do these dogs, they know, right? That there's tension and that there's an impending divorce.
Yeah. I think, look, dogs, I don't think they know there's an impending divorce because I don't think they can have a concept of that. But dogs and cats, but certainly dogs are affected when their owners are behaving different than normal. It's like when there's suddenly lots of fighting or there's suddenly stony silence when the house used to be very loud, or we all behave as people so different when we are in a stressful situation. And I mean, what's more stressful than divorce? It's like it's one of the worst things you can go through. And so for people, if they become kind of short-tempered or or are acting in ways that the dogs find scary, let's be honest, or they just don't understand, or maybe you're crying a lot, then what you'll see from the dogs is you'll see the dog's coping mechanism to stress, which is quite interesting to observe because they're very different, just like we are. And it's not even about a certain breed. It's like you can have a brother and a sister dog from the same parents, the same litter, and they'll behave very different when owners are stressed. So you'll get dogs who their response to a sort of a house that's a bit stressful or a particular person is to um I say they're like flirts. They try to be as cute as possible and like, well, let me bring you a toy and let me bark at you and be cute. Let me turn around and chase my tail. And it's a very, or they'll try to get as close to you as possible and they want to like crawl into your shirt, and their instinct is to get closer to you and to almost try to make it better. I'm putting human language on it, but that's sort of their response to it.
Okay, now I will tell you this. I can tell you my dog, when he gets stressed and when something's wrong, he poops all over the house. That is his coping mechanism. So that could
There
be
you go.
something too.
That is the least appealing but very common other response to stress is peeing and pooping in the house. Absolutely. It's completely a stress response. And I just hope everybody listening, totally separate from divorce, really understands that anytime your dog pees or poops in the house, they are stressed by something. They're not getting back at you. Like dogs don't poop to send you a message. They don't poop because they're mad at you. They're not that complicated, and they don't see their poop as a weapon, right? It's like they're stressed, they pooped. It's like bowels get affected like that. So it's never done as a message. The only sense it's a message is the dog needs something's wrong. We need to figure out why they pooped in the house. But should never take it personally. Okay.
Right. Like I always thought my dog was getting back at me, but you're right. It was because he was stressed. So for example, he doesn't like when I leave and go on trips. So he sees the suitcase the night before and I can tell he's not happy. So on the last trip, the day I left, my husband took me to the airport and we all left at the same time and he watched the luggage, and when he came home there was poop in the house. So we know that's like a perfect example of that. He was just totally stressed and couldn't handle it. Okay, so this is what I want to get back to, Karis. Like, this is what I want to tell people who are thinking about divorce or at the beginning of a divorce or even in the middle. If you're crying a lot, your dog's watching. If there's less laughter and nice communication, your dog is aware of that. If there's a lot of arguing, like Kara said, if there's a silent treatment where no one's talking to each other, those are all changes and that triggers a dog. All right, so how do you handle it?
So I said earlier that you'll get the dogs who are like flirts, who kind of come closer to you and want to engage with you more. The other side of that is you get the dogs who hide, the ones who go and like hide under the bed or hide in the bathroom, or like really try to give you space and give themselves space. So if you see your dog also behaving a little bit unusual, know that they're trying to deal with whatever vibe or stress is happening around the house. So my biggest tip to help dogs not feel so stressed is, and it's so basic, but first of all, make sure they're getting enough exercise. Okay. It's possible even that day when you left for a trip, if your dog didn't go for his morning walk, he could have also pooed because, he didn't
No,
have his.
he did go for his
Oh, he did.
morning.
He was too tense. He was too tense to poop. Okay. But make sure, because it's easy to forget about this when you are stressed, make sure your dog is getting enough exercise, because that's the best way for dogs to get rid of extra adrenaline in their system. It gives them a chance to smell the ground. And whenever your dog walks and is sniffing, you'll see it just calms them down. It puts them into a really beautiful, mellow headspace. So take them on a walk where there's lots of stuff to sniff and take it really easy, but make sure you're not just leaving them in the house. And the other thing that helps so much with the dog's stress is giving them good things to chew on, because dogs love to chew as a stress reliever. That's also why sometimes dogs chew on your shoes when you leave. It's not because they're angry and they're trying to ruin your shoes, but they're chewing on your shoes because they smell like you, and that's a comforting scent. And chewing is something that feels good when dogs are stressed, which is why they'll chew on your favorite shoes you wear all the time because they smell the most like you, or like your dirty underwear. It's the same same sort of thing. The other thing to do is, as a last basic tip for all dogs, is try not to use them as your dog shouldn't be your emotional support. And that might sound a little bit weird, but don't hold them and cry. Don't seek them out to make you feel better. Because for most dogs, unless they're a trained therapy dog, that's too much for them. Like, that's a very overwhelming position to put a dog in. So let them be there with you. Do something else in your own moment of needing some comfort, rather feel comforted by your dog having a good walk than trying to physically hug them too much, because that can be quite intense for many dogs.
Wow. Okay. So you said a couple things that I think is so interesting. Dogs touching and being in the grass and smelling it, and dogs chewing for comfort. It's really the same thing for humans. Think about it. There's a study that recently came out that says if you walk barefoot in the grass every single day, this is for humans, you will lower your blood pressure and your stress level. Like, it's ridiculous. You're supposed to walk in the grass barefoot every day for 10 minutes. Okay, same thing for dogs. Also, the chewing, look at how people stress eat. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Wow,
Totally. Yeah,
so
totally.
funny.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to take a short break. You're listening to the Divorce Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today I'm here with pet mediator and dog behavior consultant, Karis Nafty. Karis and I are answering all your questions about dogs and divorce. After the break, we're going to talk about who keeps the dog in the divorce, what to do if you're in this custody battle where you both want to keep the dog, and then also, what if you have more than one dog? Can you split up the dogs? We'll be right back. Family focused is the best way to describe Eric Feig's mediation practice. Eric is a veteran attorney turned mediator and practices many types of mediation, including, of course, divorce. Eric is also a certified co-parenting specialist and a disability-informed professional. He is a really, really great person. He strives to help parents become empowered and get through the divorce process amicably and with an outcome that both feel is fair and equitable. I love Eric. I really trust him. If you want to learn more, you can find him at feigmediationgroup.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful mortgage lender and certified divorce lending professional, a CDLP. Her name is Jan Leisure, and she has been a mortgage lender since 1997. Great lady. She's so experienced, so down to earth, great listener, really smart, and dedicated to helping people going through a divorce get a home, or refinance their home. If you want to learn more about Jan, you can find her at diamondresidential.com/Jan Leisure. And you can find both Jan and Eric in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today we're talking about dogs and divorce. We're answering any questions you might have. My guest is Karis Nafty, a pet mediator and dog behavior consultant, and the founder of Who Keeps the Dog, her pet mediation company. And she also has a book called Who Keeps the Dog. And if you like what you're hearing in this podcast, you can go to whokeepsthedog.com and you can talk to Karis. You can hire her as a consultant. She works on Zoom. You can ask her anything about your divorce. You can have your lawyer talk to her about custody of your dog. So really, she's an expert in this field. And Karis, I don't really know anybody else who does this. Do you? I mean, right now, you're like the only person in the world who does this.
I'm a bit of a unicorn at the moment. And it's funny, it's like when I first started, people kind of rolled their eyes. Were like, "Well, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard of." And I was like, "Just wait, because it's not. It's a really important thing."
Okay, let's get into Who Keeps the Dog. Now, your whole business is really people having issues with their dogs, and then so much of it is like both people want to keep the dog. So, how do you come to this conclusion if both people want the dog?
Well, the first question we have to ask that I ask of my clients if they want to go into mediation with me is, are they willing to look at the situation from the dog's point of view? And not everybody's able to do that. And I don't even mean that as a criticism. For sometimes people just want, no matter what, they want to keep it. And if we can shift the perspective to really look at the whole situation from the point of view of the dog, the truth is there is usually one person who is going to be in a better situation to have the dog in the long term. It doesn't mean the other person's not a good person. It doesn't mean they don't love the dog to pieces, but there usually is one person who's it's like if we look at the whole thing, if you look at it, you're like you're watching a movie. It's like, oh, okay, well, that person's maybe got a work schedule that's better, or they have the time to take the dog for a run, or they're the one who always gives the dogs the medication and they're good at that, or whatever the needs are of that dog. There usually is somebody who's probably the slightly better option of the two if everything else is even. And that is just something that people have to accept. And it's hard to accept, but the other option is, of course, people who want to share their dog. And the hard part about sharing a dog is that it's not nice for your animal in the long run. Most dogs, after a couple of weeks or a couple of months of moving between two houses, are not living their best life. It starts to show in their behavior. It starts to show in how they poo in the house or their eating habits, that the transition between two homes, it's like some of the dogs kind of get used to it. But the clients who I speak to, everybody I deal with who's been trying to do this for like already a year or two when they contact me, they're all like, no, I don't really think the dog's happy, but neither person's prepared to give up. So it's not, it's a short term, it's a band-aid on the problem to think that we can share the dog and be wonderful and be happy.
Okay,
Doesn't
what if one person kept the dog and the other person was allowed to like visit it, take walks? Is that a bad thing?
the best solution I have if one person's going to keep the dog, my best suggestion would be to do something like, if that person's going to go on vacation a couple times a year, then the dog goes with the ex-person, the ex-husband or wife. Because then the dog can spend some days there. And it's kind of like going to camp, like, oh wow, I'm at this other person's house who I love a lot and they have a nice time. That tends to work better than visiting the dog for regular walks. And there's two reasons for that. The one reason, which we haven't really talked about in the shared custody conversation, is the fact that if you're coming to take the dog and visit it, you're also visiting your ex. you're also in communication with your ex. You want to know about their plans on Sunday. It's like, no, I can't, you can't take the dog for a walk because I've got a date, etc. I mean, I'm making that example up. But for many people, that becomes weird and tiresome after a while. And it becomes a little bit like boundary invasive if you don't have very clear boundaries about when you can take the dog or not. So for some people, it works out fine, but you have to have very, very clear boundaries so that a year into it, you're not going, oh my God, every Sunday I have to hang out at home so my ex can take Rover for a walk. It's a hard thing to keep going without good
And
boundaries.
and it makes it harder to move on in your life too. Okay, and then what was the other reason?
So the other reason is that if you have a dog who was very attached to both people and super happy about seeing their person, if you come, especially if you come kind of randomly for walks, like let's say you don't even come once a week, but maybe you come once a month. What happens then for the dog, from the dog's point of view, is that, they get settled in their life not having the X person, the special person. And then when they see that person again, it's so exciting and it's so cute because they're so happy to see them and the dog's so, so, so excited. And then the person's gone. And then after that, all that sort of euphoria and all those high emotions of the reunion, you then have a separation again. And for some dogs, it actually becomes worse because they don't settle so much. They start looking at the door every day and wondering, like, is this the day that they're coming to take me for a walk? So some of the behavior work I do in this sphere of pet custody is with dogs who have developed separation anxiety because the ex was sort of dropping by randomly to take the dog for a walk, and it's a funny thing that can happen. So that is why it's not an ideal rhythm to take the dog all the time.
Okay, I have another question. So, what if somebody has more than one dog and they say, "Okay, you're gonna keep Rover and I'm gonna keep the other dog." Does that work? I mean, that's kinda like splitting up kids.
So you can split up the dogs if ideally, if they're not the closest of friends. So dogs can live together, but not actually be super socially bonded. You can live in a house with two dogs, but the truth is the dogs are more attached to the human beings and not to each other. Often this happens if there's like a huge age difference between the dogs. If like one dog's 10 years old and one dog's 1 year old, they probably depends on the situation, but often don't play together very much because they have very different sort of stamina. Similarly, if there's dogs who have very, very different energy levels or like kind of breed types. So if you have like a bulldog, okay, that's sweet and lazy and can't go very far and much exercise, and a German shepherd who's like super busy and super hyper and wants to run all the time, those two dogs may not actually play very much because they're very, very different sort of dogs. Um, if you are going to split up those sort of dogs, then it is a bit stressful and confusing for them for a while, but they adjust. It's like dogs are pretty adaptable to things. If you are going to separate dogs, the best way to do it is to do it sort of, I always say it's like kind of taking off a band-aid. You just do it once. Don't separate them for a few days and bring them back together because then they just start wondering, where's my friend and when are they coming back? So I recommend for the actual separation moment, rather than one dog drives away in the car, that each person take a dog and drive away from the house separately. So the dog each thinks and take the dog on a walk and do something nice and then come home, but they don't actually witness their person and their dog friend driving away. And for those dogs, if you are separating dogs that used to live together, I really recommend you don't get them together for play dates because, like with people, they'll sort of have this manic, excited reunion and then you separate them again. And that's not
Oh
really
my
great.
gosh, my heart is breaking right now. This
Yeah.
is terrible. But what you're saying is if you do separate the dogs, it hurts at first. Probably the humans feel it more, and then the dogs, like, basically just because I always think, I know this is really morbid, but I think like, well, what if I died? What would my dog think? He would be okay. He would be like at first, like, wait, where did she go? And then he would be okay.
Yeah. And timeline wise, I mean, this sounds very precise and strange, but it almost always takes about 2 weeks. So whether you're separating 2 dogs or one person has left the house or you're moving to a new house, whatever the sort of big life change that happens, there's always this sort of couple of week period where I always say just take your dog's behavior with a pinch of salt. It's like if they chew on some stuff or they're a little bit grumpy or they're a little bit clingy, it's okay. They're sort of in the in between time. But then they get over stuff faster than we do if you just give them a chance and you're patient with them. I know this from, I mean, before I started doing mediation, I spent years working at animal shelters and helping thousands of dogs who were like newly in the shelter or going to new homes or helping them integrate once they'd been adopted and just sort of watching this pattern of adaptation that dogs go through. So they do adapt. You just have to make the choice you're making, take a deep breath, do it, and kind of move on without then going back to visit because you feel bad, because then that throws the whole adaptation period up, throws it up in the sky, basically.
Wow. I mean, you really know what you're doing. You're like, yeah, I've been doing it for 25 years. Okay. So I have one more question because we're sort of running out of time, but we have a little more time. When people are trying to figure out who keeps the dog, do they do it like, in other words, if you're the one who had the affair and you're leaving to go marry someone else, do you see those cases where they just say, okay, fine, you can have the dog because they feel really guilty? Have you ever seen cases where people are like, so hurt that they wanna hurt the other person. They don't even really want the dog. They know it's not the best decision because of their work schedule or whatever, but they don't wanna give up the dog because they feel they deserve it because they were hurt. Tell me about those situations.
All the time, and it's really heartbreaking. Many of my clients are in a situation where their ex has taken the dog just to hurt them. They didn't have a strong connection with the dog. They never took it for walks. They never but, they can maybe lay claim to ownership depending on what state they live in or what country. So it's a really, really common thing that happens. Those situations, I can't help them with mediation, but I will often come in as a witness in court for situations like that and talk about the dog's behavior to try to help get the dog into the right home. And yes, so it's one of the best ways I can say to avoid that, because it's really common, is that if you decide you're going to get a divorce or you're leaving your partner, try to decide about what's going to happen with the dog as soon as possible. More typically, when it gets left till the end, that's when it gets used as a weapon. And that's when people use it to hurt because so if you have to sort of be really brave to bring it up. A lot of people, I think, don't even want to talk about it because the thought of losing it's too scary. But the sooner you can bring it up, offer something to that other person. If the dog's really important to you, maybe you can pay them for the dog. Maybe there's an item of value you can offer in exchange, but to work through it and acknowledge the fact it's like, yep, we both know this dog is the most important thing to me. And rather than it being weaponized, I'd like to address it so that we don't use the dog as a weapon. Like just throw it out there and say it because that's what happened
Beginning.
at the
Wow.
beginning.
Well, Karis, this is like pretty much where you come in to mediate and help people understand and say, like, look, I'm sure you're really hurt, but you have to remember what happens to the dog has to be for the right reasons. And I think that's basically what you're doing in your work every day, helping people. And then you're ultimately helping the pets, which is, it sounds like, you're just so passionate about pets that's you're advocating for pets.
Exactly. The voice of the pet. That's what I'm doing, definitely.
Paris, you are the best. Thank you so much for being on the show. I love talking to you.
Thanks, Jackie. It's awesome as always. Love doing this.
And if you want to learn more or talk to Karis or hire her, or you're a divorce professional listening to this and you need her for some cases, you can find her at whokeepsthedog.com. You can also find her in the trusted professionals section of Divorced Girl Smiling, which is divorcedgirlsmiling.com. And you can go there to listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult, which is a 30-minute call. And we talk about your situation. You tell me everything. And then what I do is direct you to professionals who I think would be the best fit for you. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.